DINO was involved in Mexico with Doon, and so he said, well, you go find a location. We'll go shoot it. There was this antebellum home in Virginia where the CIA were conducting these experiments, and a lot of the story takes place there, and consequently a lot of the picture would take place there. So we began looking for that specific location first. Let's find that, and then we'll know where we're going to make this film. And I had, from Universal, gotten a picture from a magazine. It was a cover of a magazine called Southern Accents. And the cover had this picture of this antebellum mansion. And I would be using that kind of as a tool, saying to location managers and film commissioners, here, this is the kind of house this is sort of, what, have you got anything sort of like this? Eventually, somebody finally said, well, you know, if you really like that so well, why don't you look for that particular one? Which sounded like a pretty good idea.
Orton Plantation was a rice plantation, really. It goes back to about 1725 when the house was built by a man named Roger Moore, who with his brothers Maurice Moore and Nathaniel Moore came up from Charleston. He came down, wanted to see it. He had said that DINO had looked all over everywhere, Texas and even in Italy, and he could not find exactly what he wanted in the way of a place to film. And Orton seemed to suit his needs, and that's why he came to us to make a deal.
I sort of told them the story of what was going to happen. And when we came to the part about burning the house down, I tried to be a little, you know, but they said, oh, fire, no fire near here. I said, well, no, you don't understand. The movie fire, we make a fire and it's with gas, and when we turn it off, nothing gets really burnt. No, we can't have that. So then we talked to, I had a construction coordinator, Vic Simpson, and he said, well, what we can do is we could build a replica, a full-size replica nearby with same territory and so on. We can landscape the front of it, and you won't know the difference. We can make it perfect, and we can burn that. So that's exactly what we did.
We were somewhat overawed by the size of it and the production and what they did, and had no idea, of course, what it was going to amount to. But it was a very interesting time, and it did sort of start off the area as a filmmaking part of the world. I think it was good for the community, and a lot of nice people have come here because of it.
I'm from Houston originally, and we were doing a series of movies of the week down in Houston. And the production manager was sort of grooming the crew because he had some project in North Carolina, and he was going to bring a bunch of us to North Carolina to do this movie, Firestarter.
Basically, I supply cameras, film cameras, to productions, film productions. I've done many film productions, and along the way, my first one as a company as Joe Dunton Cameras was Flash Gordon, and DINO De Laurentiis produced Flash Gordon. We went on to do the Arnold Schwarzenegger Conan the Barbarian in Spain. Our next project was Doon in Mexico. So we've gone from London to Spain to Mexico with his cameras. The next project was a film called Firestarter, which was in North Carolina, and we never knew where we were going.
We're sitting on the front porch, and a friend of mine calls and says, hey, they're having cattle call auditions down at the Hilton, and I gave them, and I spoke to one of the casting people, and I gave them your name as a local actor. So I laughed, oh, and I have to say, we'd been drinking since about 11 that morning, so we already had a buzz going, and as I can remember now, I went into one of the smaller rooms, and they had a little video camera just like this, and they gave me these two lines, and it said "bearded student," which I thought was very funny for a character's name, bearded student. So anyway, so I did that, and stumbled out, and you know, we wandered around for a little bit longer, and then we went home and whatever, and you know, that was that. The next day, I'd completely forgotten I even had gone, you know, and it wasn't because I was roaring drunk. It just, you know, I was just something to do and blah blah. Really, you know, wasn't a big deal. Now, about 3 weeks go by, and filming has begun. And we're out at Orton building an entire recreation of Orton Plantation that's going to be burned to the ground, and that was pretty phenomenal, just being part of building it. I mean, it was a full-size replica, external replica, and a lot of talent, a lot of people involved. Jeff Slaughter, the construction coordinator, comes pulling up, and generally speaking, Jeff is between the sets and Orton, so you don't see him a lot. I mean, I didn't really know him at the time, and he comes up and yells towards the house, "Scott Davis!" You know, and I wave, "Yes, up here," and he goes, "They want to see you back in Wilmington." Well, I freaked out. You know, I'm thinking to myself, "Oh my God, I'm in trouble. I'm getting fired." Yeah, why else would they want to see me in Wilmington? You know, I'm nobody. I'm just you know, one of the many painters. So I'm in trouble. So I go into the production office trailer and I say, "Hi, I'm Scott Davis," and they say, "Oh yeah, great. The director's trailer is 2 trailers down. Go in and see him." And I'm thinking to myself, the director's trailer? The director's going to fire a painter? And he goes, "Well, listen," he said, "I really liked your read, and I'd like you to do the bearded student thing." I'm sorry, what are we talking about? He looks at me, he goes, "The audition. You came down, we had some audition here at the Hilton." Hilton? And I said, that reminds me of something, but audition? And he kind of looks at me like, "Are you an idiot?" And so he turns around and he's got a stack of tapes, and sure enough, there's mine. I see my name on it. He pulls it out, he sticks it in, he rewinds it, and then he hits play, and there I am in this little room. "Oh, dude, and I'm blown away. And I mean, I just sit there, I'm like looking at the television going, "Oh my God, that really is me." And he goes, "That is you, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And of course, by this point, now it's all come back. And I said, "Oh my goodness." I said, "I got to be honest with you." I said, "I was kind of drunk." I said, "We've been drinking beers before," because I didn't know I was going to do that day until I'd gotten a phone call about it. He goes, "Well, can you do the same performance?" And I said, "Well, sure. I mean, it's one line." He said, "Because I want you to do it." I was like, "Okay, I guess, sure." And he goes, "All right, done."
Are there any questions?
Dr. Wanless, is this experiment being done by the shop?
No. Absolutely not.
And now the special effects makeup guy's there, and he's got the blood bags, you know, and the tubes running up. I mean, it's like 4 of us walking me. I look like a puppet, you know, as I'm being brought in. So, anyway, so we do the gag, and I pull the eyes. I'm screaming. The blood's flowing. The blood's going in my mouth. It's just nasty, and you know, and Mark Lester just, you know, cut, and he comes over and he goes, "Well, I didn't really like that. I thought that looked kind of cheesy." He says, "I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's just go from, you've already pulled your eyes out, you know, there's blood all over the place, and you just scream." So we did that a few times, and I'm screaming bloody murder, you know. I mean, just, you know, all over the place, and as soon as they yell cut, it's and I stop and I pop up and I go, "How's that?"
They would do these full body burns where, you know, the guys were engulfed in flames head to toe. And that was really, really, just to see somebody on fire like that, first of all. And then to have, you know, you've got so many people responsible for so many things to be sure to put this guy out before he melts.
We shot almost all the rest of the picture right around here. We even, for the sort of the last sequence in the picture, where she goes to the New York Times to sort of tell this story, we shot in downtown Wilmington. We just, you know, didn't shoot any tall buildings. We shot right close, and we dressed the building as the New York Times, and that worked okay too.
Biggest job I'd ever done. Worked 12 or 14 weeks on it. Made the best money I'd ever made. And at the end of the show, I probably had about $800 in my pocket. But man, I had a great time. By the end of the show, we did a shot where, I guess we did it on our lunch break, where we start tied on Mark's chair, Mark Lester, director, and I guess we were on a Western Dolly or something, because we didn't take long to set it up. and we pull back and we pull back and we pull back, and the mansion's in the background. Or I guess what's left of the mansion was in the background. And the effects guys had rigged up another fireball with primer cord. And once we got the camera back far enough, that fireball came in there, and that director's chair turned into 50 boxes of toothpicks. And the whole crowd, everybody's cheering and screaming, "Ah!" You know, real barbaric stuff. But I doubt that'll make it tape.
Pretty funny though.
And one other thing about Mark I remember was, and this has always tickled me, he would walk around, he had curly hair, and he'd walk around like this, curl his hair while he was thinking. And there were times where he would be carrying Drew, because Drew was, God, she was 4 or 5 years old. And he'd be carrying Drew, and Drew would be sucking her thumb and curling his hair for him while he walked around. It was really bizarre, really funny.
So basically, I fell in love with the place as far as it was a nice place to be. You know, it was seeing the ocean for the first time. During I think Firestarter, Dino said he was going to build a studio here, and I just jived with him to say, look, if you build a studio, I'll put a camera department in the studio, because I'd done 3 films with him anyway. You know, I'd worked with him for 3 quite big films, really. And for me, he was the last. Well, he's a proper film mogul. He always claimed that if he rings up the President of the United States, he'll take his call.
It was jamming here. I mean, people were moving here from Los Angeles, Italy, England, because it was such a great area to live. Nothing like Hollywood, and it was everybody's dream to be able to make movies outside of that, outside of Los Angeles.
Well, I think it's one of the industries that is certainly very helpful to the community, providing jobs for people, and also incentive for young people, especially to act a little bit nicer and tend to things around town here, but a little more respectfully, I think.